So can everyone see the chat room?
Yes.
So the questions are, just in case you can't, what did you like about the training, i.e. the benefits? What challenges did you experience and ideas for improving the training? And what are your next steps for building a culture of empathy? Or as usual, what is alive for you at the moment? Would anyone like to start? I'll just literally be doing the time. So if you'd like to speak and choose a reflector.
Well, I'll start.
Thank you, Graham.
And Sunita, would you be my listener, please? You're silent. You're muted, Sunita.
Yes.
Okay. So, what did you like about the training and benefits, etc.? Yeah, that's a question that's not easy to answer. There were a lot of things that I actually appreciated about the training. And you might hear me sort of allude to it or even actually say it, but I have a very low level of confidence. And so this opportunity here, facilitated training, has been wonderful in that the circle is provided for me and I simply get stuck in. And I really enjoy the work, and I enjoy being in all sides, on all roles of the empathy circle. And it's the familiarity is really the big benefit. Being able to do it and realize that I'm not going to get eaten alive and I'll still survive afterwards and sleep well afterwards, that kind of thing. So they're all very, very personal benefits, but in my mind, each one of these little benefits adds to the other and creates the overall confidence that I'm looking for. Oh, I talked for so long, Sunita. I do apologize.
No problem. No problem. So yes, I heard you mention that there are a lot of things that you've learned from, or you benefited from, the empathy circles. The first thing I heard you mention is about your confidence, and being in this circle has helped you in many ways overcome and build a level of confidence. And the fact that the circle gives you the opportunity to take up different roles. What else? Yeah, and you feel very safe. You find the space provided by the circle very safe to just be yourself and to work on your level of confidence. That's what I heard you say.
Yes, thank you, Sunita. And then we go on to some of the other questions, like what challenges did you experience? And I remember some of the challenges which Anne set for me. I didn't even realize that she was setting a challenge for me. And I was actually the listener in this particular role. So I felt that I did well and enjoyed all the challenges. But some of the, so let me break there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I heard you say that you enjoyed the challenges. So there was one incident where Anne posed a challenge and you were a listener and you feel like you did a good job there. Yeah, that's what I heard you say.
Yes, thanks, Sunita. And one of the areas where I did actually have difficulty, and we've alluded to that today, is when do you actually intervene? And yeah, so I'll break there, Sunita.
So one challenge you have is when you are a facilitator and you're not sure when to intervene.
Yes, and the example is when the listener is in this case is setting up a situation where they are evidently not listening and talking their own story. I found I was interfering too early because the speaker actually has all sorts of facilities in their own right to correct the listener and respond to the listener. So I wasn't waiting long enough to hear how the speaker responded.
Okay, so yeah, so your challenge was with when exactly to intervene, especially when you noticed that the listener was not reflecting back what the speaker was actually saying, and you didn't really wait for the speaker to, yeah, okay, yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, for the speaker to correct or to come back and repeat again. But so you intervened, and you feel you should have waited.
Yes, thank you very much, Sunita.
Thank you, thank you. Celine, can I ask you to be my listener, please?
Sure.
Thank you, thank you. So I would like to start with my deepest gratitude, because I would like to express my gratitude for everything that I have learned in this 5 weeks. It has been a very gratifying journey, I would say, because so much has happened. I'll stop there.
Okay, so I'm hearing that you want to express your deepest gratitude. You have for many things, and that it has been the whole journey has been gratifying for you.
Thank you. So right from the beginning, when we get to meet everyone and listen to everyone's stories and their sharing, so there is so much that you can pick up from there. That's one. And secondly, when you have the opportunity to go through this process of practicing what you want to, like you are living the experience. So when you go out and do something like this, you're not faking, yeah.
So some of the things that you've loved is, first of all, meeting people and hearing their stories, but also that it's something real and alive for you. So when you go out and share this practice, it's genuine. It's something true and real.
And so I have decided to join another cohort.
So you
because
join another cohort and keep going.
Yeah. And I look forward to it because, as I said, it's very, very enriching. And yeah, so I guess that's what I'm going to do. Practice in a circle of facilitators and learn, and then try out running my own circle. Yeah, I'll stop there.
So because this has been so enjoyable and enriching, you've decided to join another cohort and keep on learning and get ready to create your own circles to facilitate.
Yes, thank you. Talking about challenges. Yeah, the challenge. Yeah, my biggest challenge has been making myself ready to for the challenges that might come up in a circle. Having the confidence to expect anything to happen and to welcome it, not to be afraid and think, oh, this might happen and I will stay back, kind of, yeah.
So in terms of the challenges, what you're wanting and working towards is to feel confident, to feel ready to meet whatever challenges come up and handle them, and not be afraid and be thinking ahead, oh, this might happen or that might happen, but feel you can handle whatever it is. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And I would also like to repeat what Graham said about not being sure when to intervene. So yeah, and that definitely I need more practice. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that coming in a circle, so that I know, or I can learn, I get that opportunity to see and learn.
So a piece that you would like to work on more is this when to intervene. And so you are looking forward to more practice with this particular possible challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and if I don't know if I have some more time, but yeah, if I do, then how do I want to take it forward? I think I already mentioned. I want it to be a very natural part of my life, where I think Lou mentioned it earlier when we were together. Yeah.
So you want this to be a very natural part of your life and integrate it wholly, not something kind of separate that.
Yeah. If anything at all, I would like to be an active listener and just be wholly present for the person. Yeah.
So you really like the idea of being an active listener, of being really present to people so that you can hear them and let them know what you're hearing.
Thank you very much. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Celine.
So, Lou, would you be willing to listen to me?
Yes, I'd love to.
So, I love these trainings. I enjoy learning, and I love also seeing people from different countries and different cultures be part of the cohort.
Yeah, so you've really loved these trainings because it's been an opportunity for you to learn, and you love to learn. And you also love seeing that people from all over the world are part of it. That you really like that.
I experienced quite a few challenges. The one about when to intervene, one to yeah, when there's to intervene, and then also I watch my kind of NVC habits, and I'm not sure if they are problematic, if I sound weird because of them. But they've been there a long time. So that's a conversation I'd like to have with somebody at some time to get feedback about that.
Yeah, so some of the challenges that you have faced are knowing when to intervene, kind of learning about that and experimenting with that, and still you feel like you're still learning about that. And you have a background in nonviolent communication, which is NVC, and you're not sure, you're wondering about the communication you have, habits you have that are based on that, and whether those are actually helping or whether they are what was the word you used? Not a block, but whether they make you sound weird, I think, or something like that. You said something like that, and that you'd like to have a conversation with that about that with somebody.
Yes, thank you. I've thought of a triangle of capability, enthusiasm, and confidence. And I see this triangle is made of elastic. So it can get wonky. Sometimes, oh, this way, sometimes, oh, that way. And would like it to be, an equilateral triangle that is stable at some point.
Yeah, so there's a visual metaphor that you are, or representation that you described of how you think of this process of holding empathy circles, enthusiasm, skill, and I can't remember what the third part was.
Confidence.
Confidence, right. And you think of this triangle as like an elastic triangle that bends in different ways when that's needed. And yeah, and you seem to have a lot of joy around having that as a model, as a way of thinking about it.
Yes. And to my surprise, I've suddenly started writing a list of people I can contact about doing these circles, like first this and then eventually including the new mayor of our town, who I think would be interested, and our government could definitely benefit from empathy circles. So I'm looking forward to this.
So something that's happened for you is you've started to make lists of people that you think you might invite into empathy circles, including city leaders like the mayor. And it excites you to think about doing that.
I've also thought of where to reach out to get participants for my practice, which will be the next steps before calling the mayor.
So you've also been thinking about who you might invite into doing circles as a way of practicing and gaining experience and skills before you reach out to the larger community, people who are not as familiar with you.
Yes. So I think I've covered all the questions and I feel complete.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. So I guess I'll go to Dean.
Oh, Lou, yeah. Thank you.
So I love teaching. I've been a teacher most of my life in one way or another. And I love the puzzle of trying to figure out how to help people learn stuff, that's complicated. And so it gives me a lot of joy to do these classes and to watch people build skill. And it also gives me a lot of joy to hear feedback about kind of what works and what doesn't, because it helps me learn.
So I'm hearing you speak to your joy of actually being part of the educating and opening up people to new things. I'm hearing you speak about the fact that you like putting across complex issues to people so that they can actually understand them. And I'm hearing you enjoying the fact that you like to teach because you like to hear back what works and what doesn't work, and then change your teaching practices to be more inclusive.
Yeah, thanks. To Celine's comment about NVC, so I have a pretty deep background in nonviolent communication and taught it. And one of the things that's attractive to me about empathy circle practice is it teaches people about empathic reflection without actually a lot of explicit instruction, which, what I've learned or seen over my time with NVC people and teaching it is that because there's a lot of explanation, it tends to become an intellectual process, not a heart process. And so I think it's really interesting the way people learn about reflection in an empathy circle.
So I'm hearing you talk to your history of NBC and about the fact that you've been an educator in NBC and taught the process to other people. But you then speak to this presence of the fact that NBC is actually educational on an intellectual level, whereas their work in your empathy circles is more heart and empathic heart level. So it's you're not learning it through the mind, you're learning it through the practice and actually doing. So you're building up this muscle through doing the practice rather than learning the practice.
Yeah, that was good. A little different though. So NVC is a fabulous practice. It's great. I've used it in my life and it's been a tremendous tool. If it's taught with too much explanation, it can become intellectual. But the principles of it are enormously sound. And when I teach it, I focus mostly on understanding feelings and needs, trying to hear those and reflect them back. And yeah, and I think that, that's the piece that is not explicitly taught in empathy circles, but is demonstrated by skillful facilitators, being in the circle and doing reflections. And so that's how people start to learn about it in an experiential way rather than an intellectual way.
Okay, I got slightly confused there, but I'll try and reflect. The NVC reflection technique is slightly different. You talk about emotions and reactions to those emotions, whereas the empathy, the other part about that was the fact that NVC is a very valuable practice and it's very deeply embedded in you. And actually, only if it's taught too assertively does it become an intellectual practice, because it's actually a good practice for enabling people to contact with each other on an emotional level rather than an intellectual level. And the process of the empathic circles is slightly different, but still as valid when it comes to that emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and I think while there isn't explicit instruction about reflecting when you teach someone to participate in an empathy circle, I do think that it might be valuable actually to teach a little bit more about the components of a good reflection in the facilitator training. So facilitators become conscious of it and are a little bit more conscious, are more skillful in the reflections that they do in circles, because that's what people begin to learn from, by seeing it modeled.
So I'm hearing you speak to the fact that actually there might be a component to be added to the training of the trainers, because quite frankly, if as the role model, if they have this NVC skill set or aware of the NVC skill set, they can then portray it to others so that their reflections are a little bit more, what's the word? I don't think there is a word. Their reflections are a little bit more, not aggressive, not assertive.
Accurate.
Accurate. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, thank you. I feel very good. I assume my time is up.
Yes, Lee, that was your bleeper.
I have more I want to say, but my time is up.
Next round. Next round.
Till next round. Okay.
I'll speak to Sunita. Yeah, I like that idea of we're learning some NVC principles in order to hold an empathy circle. Although NVC can be somewhat intimidating at first, I think its central construct of communicating in a not violent, not assertive, non-forceful way is a valuable skill set that we could all learn from.
Okay, I heard you speak about the nonviolent communication, or NVC, and how talking about or bringing some of its values into empathy circle would make it that I didn't get that part, sorry.
Don't worry, I'm still trying to get that part too. but it's to do with how we model the empathic reflecting. Sometimes I need to work on my shadow self because my language is inappropriate in certain situations, and unlearning bad skills is an important part of holding the empathy circle.
So I heard you unlearning being an important skill in holding us. And
Yeah.
then,
Because if we come into a circle and we are not role modeling in a constructive way and we model in a destructive way, then actually we are inhibiting, I personally feel, the circle. But that's just my own personal intuition.
so I heard you say how important it is for us to be a model, for the circle to be held. Because if we aren't, then it can be inhibiting.
Yeah, because there's constructive and destructive ways of looking at the world. And I think the world's been destructed enough. I think we need to start constructing. That's my underlying core belief.
Yeah, so you talked about how important it is for us to be constructive, to build the world again. Yeah.
Yeah, part of this, as I understand it, this empathy, building a culture of empathy, is learning a way of communicating and interacting in a way that enriches each other and enables each one of us to actually be present and value ourselves. So therefore, we interact in a more not friendly, not assertive. Well, no, yeah, friendly, in a more friendly way.
So the value of empathy circle is to help us communicate with each other, value each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I read a wonderful book called A and B. It was a maths professor's view of male assertiveness and female receptiveness. And it talked in a language that took away the cultural baggage of masculinity and femininity with the words ingressive and congressive.
Mm-hmm. So I heard you talk about a book that you've read by a mathematician where he talks about male assertiveness and female receptiveness, but then, yeah, it takes away, I think.
Yeah, because there is a lot of when certain words are used, they come with a cultural baggage or meaning that can often inhibit someone else from listening to what follows that word.
So I'm sorry, I cannot.
Okay, right. So I'll stop there because my time is nearly up, and to explain what I was trying to say will probably take another 5 minutes. So thank you for listening, Shanice. It's your turn to start talking. It's okay.
Yeah. Before I start, it's actually 11 o'clock here, and yeah. So I'm not fully. I am awake, but I don't think I'm really very attentive. Yeah, I'm quite tired. Okay.
Your light
okay.
background, Sunita, doesn't really communicate the time of day of where you are.
Mm-hmm. So I think I've already spoken about what the empathy circle has meant. Oh, sorry, I didn't pick my listener.
Well
Sorry.
done.
Graham, please can I ask you to be my listener? Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just talk about the week. because I think I've spoken enough about the values and what this circle has meant to me. It's been a tough week. And just to process what's happening has been a challenge. So I'll stop there.
You're muted, Greg.
Thank you. So Sunita, you chose to speak about the week because it's been challenging. And there's really been a lot happening. And so that's why you want to speak about it.
Thank you. So it's that time of the year when you get your contract, your work contract, and then some are happy and some are not, because of course they're not renewed. And so suddenly the work environment that was, a place where that was a positive, where the environment was positive, suddenly you don't know how to approach each other or what to say. Yeah, I'll stop there.
And you described the challenges as being for example, in the workplace where it's the time of year when you all get your contracts renewed, and some have their contracts renewed and others don't. And it has the effect of being stressful because you don't know how to talk to other people. You don't know whether their contract has been renewed or not. And so there's this unknowing, this stress around, this ambivalence around.
Yes, thank you. And especially at this time when things are already so difficult, and from all aspects, I think. Yeah, so that has been my challenge.
And this happens at a time, Sunita, when there are a lot of challenges out there, and so you end up with a challenge at work and a challenge in the outside world, and it's difficult.
Yes. But on the spiritual level, I think this is very important, because then it gives you the understanding of transience, that you cannot grasp onto something, you cannot hold onto something. It's like a fluid. Everything is, get into the flow. Don't hold on, move, change, just be. Yeah, stop there.
And the thing for you is the spiritual approach, and all this changing that's going on makes you realize that you just can't grasp onto anything. Everything is in flux, everything is changing, the world is transient, and you need to be able to move and to flow with what's happening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Graham. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Sunita. So I'd like to, can I have a listener, Celine, please?
Yes.
And I'd like to address the third question, which is, what are your next steps for building a culture of empathy? And I start off with the thought of Sunita's, where this process of listening and empathizing not only needs to be, but is a beautiful component of your life. So it needs to be, I need to live it and not just have it on one side.
So you're considering the third of these four questions to consider in terms of what are the next steps. And you're seeing that this process is really valuable and is not just for creating empathy circles and so on, but you want it integrated into your life as part of how you relate to everybody.
Yes, thank you, Celine. And I'm trying to develop a new career as a therapist, and I see this as a vital tool, because when you empathize with somebody, I sense and I believe that you have then the tools to get to the core of the person's issues and help them with their well-being.
So, especially since you're gearing up for a new career as a psychotherapist, you're seeing that these skills and this process are essential for being able to understand and get to the core issues of your clients.
Yes, thank you, Celine. And so what I'm actually doing is having not only studying but also practicing the process of empathizing and listening and doing what they do in NVC, like, for example, much more closely understanding feelings and needs. It's that whole area I'm focusing on and building my skills in.
So you mentioned studying and practicing and focusing a lot on the area of empathy, both from empathy circle skills and from NVC. What are people's feelings and values and needs? And this helps you further your skills in that area.
Yes, thank you, Celine. And yeah, I'm actually not pushing the boundaries. I'm not out there selling the empathy circles and whatever, but I'm just allowing my circle to slowly grow, what's the word? Grow naturally.
So you're not right now going out and making a big effort to spread the culture of empathy and create empathy circles. You're going slowly and gradually and kind of organically expanding your circle.
Yes, and that was the word you found for me, organically. Thank you very much, Celine. And I'm finding that by allowing things to grow organically and keeping my empathic processes uppermost, I'm building a circle of really valuable friends and contacts.
And you're finding that by letting your circle grow organically, and you are developing a group of supportive and trusted and people to be working with and learning with.
Thank you, Celine. And so we have our time is up, and I thank you very much for reflecting and for listening to me. Thank you, Celine. So over to you. Thank you.
So let's see. Dean, would you listen to me?
Certainly, Celine.
I guess I just saw identified a challenge that I had not identified before, although I have experienced it. I'll pause.
I hear you talking about identifying a challenge that you've had before, but that you haven't, that you've identified a challenge for the first time, but you haven't experienced before.
And that is the lowering of capacity due to fatigue. And because of, this is a really hard time, the death that happened is a lot of ramifications and complications and grief and blah, blah, blah. So my capacity is my energy is a little lower. And I just saw my mind kind of go, bye-bye.
Okay. So I'm hearing you talk about an emotion that's very current for you at the moment of feeling fatigued because you've got so much going on around you. You've had someone depart from you that's part of your circle. And you're feeling that your brain has just gone melted all of a sudden, and you're finding it hard to be present.
Not so much being present, but retaining what I'm listening to, what I'm hearing. So I hadn't seen it as clearly as I just saw it with Graham. I'll pause there.
So you're having an issue with actually retaining what's going on, and you saw something with great clarity that Graham was talking of.
Well, yeah. So it's a note of interest, and my guess is with experience, it would be a huge problem. I would feel comfortable either speaking about it or managing it.
So I'm hearing you talking about increasing your comfort level in a situation that was mentioned previously.
Yeah. Well, first to identify the challenges that I personally may be dealing with, and being prepared to deal with it. But I hadn't known until that moment what my capacity, or how I have less capacity right now because of all the stuff going on. So anyway.
So I'm hearing you speak to the fact that when Graham was speaking, it helped you identify the fact that your capacity for retaining stuff was reduced because of what's been going on around you.
And I have been an educator most of my life, and I know that I can get in front of a class, a group, and teach for an hour, anything. I feel that confidence. With this, I don't have that confidence because I'm learning it. So I can experience the difference between I can do this, whatever, or, well, yeah, I'm just feeling my way.
Okay. So I'm hearing you talk about your long time spent in teaching. And I'm hearing you talk about the discomfort you're feeling actually being in this new role of actually holding rather than being the teacher.
It's not about the role, it's about the amount of experience and learning. And because I've done something for many, many years, I've been through a lot of challenges and I've overcome them. And so I feel confident. But this is something I'm just doing for a few months. And so I'm finding, therefore, lack of confidence.
So I'm hearing you actually speaking about the discomfort about being in a situation where you're not as confident because previously you spent a long time in a process, and in this new process that you're experiencing, you don't have that reservoir of experience to pull upon, and actually it's this is why you referred to earlier your triangle being skewed to one side, and learning to actually be comfortable in that new environment.
Yes. Thank you. I feel fully heard. Thanks, Dean.
Okay. I'll speak to Lou because I need to talk NVC again, because NVC, I'm finding whenever I come up to someone that's NVC, I get scared.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you'd like to talk about NVC some more, and you find yourself feeling scared whenever you come up to someone who you think knows a lot about NVC or is talking about NVC.
Yeah, I'm hyper nervous about faux pas and putting my foot in or saying the wrong thing. And actually, I'm finding that nervousness inhibits my ability to reflect properly, as far as I can perceive.
Yeah, so part of what happens to you when you are talking to someone that knows a lot about NVC is that you get nervous that you're going to say something wrong or whatever, you're going to get something wrong. And that nervousness makes it hard for you to stay present and to actually listen and reflect.
I find myself hyper analyzing every word I'm going to say. Is this violent word? Is this connotation in my brain violent? Am I being aggressive? Am I being too overboard? Which is very hard because I am very overboard.
Yes, you have a lot of internal dialogue in a moment like that. You have a lot of internal dialogue analyzing, is this word okay? Is this word okay? Is this a violent word? Whatever. And so it becomes, and that a lot of internal talk interferes with being present and actually hearing.
Yeah, so I end up not hearing what I'm meant to be hearing. I end up thinking, how can I say something so that then the conversation will not go to a place I'm uncomfortable in, so that I may end up pushing myself into a situation by my reflection of actually having to say or approach a subject that I don't feel I have a firm foundation in.
Yeah, so you just you get worried about what you might say, and you get very busy trying to find the right words, or you wind up not wanting to talk at all because you are worried about where it's going to go.
But I am thrilled by it at the same time, because I do like to be held to account. And this new way of thinking that I'm discovering with the NVC and all the other books I'm reading is actually the opposite of the way I was brought up.
So at the same time, you're really interested in NVC and you would like to learn about it because you think that it promotes a kind of accountability that you think is important and is very different than the way you were brought up.
Yeah, I was brought up in a very destructive environment whereby you go in and you attack the weaknesses, whereas NVC is all about actually being present for that other person and not being aggressive.
Yeah, so you were brought up in an environment where people pointed out each other's failures and weaknesses, and they did that very bluntly or aggressively, and that was, and you perceive NVC as being the opposite of that, of trying to support people and understand them, and you like that idea.
Yeah. So one's building, which is this new style of empathy and NVC, and one's destructive, which is the old style of rip it to pieces and reductionism. I'm trying to get away from that reductionist and get to the constructionist.
Yeah, so you see NVC as building or affirming, and you see the other thing of noticing the things people do wrong and criticizing, you see that as destructive. And you think that affirming people is much more what you'd like to be doing. What you think that builds a better world.
Yeah, because people then feel that they're not isolated and they're connected. And when people are connected, from my experience, they're calmer, they're more secure.
Yeah, so when you think that when people are affirmed, they feel more connected and calmer and more like they belong. You didn't use that word, but and that it's more positive, it's more constructive.
Because I know that when I wasn't doing this sort of stuff beforehand and working with other NVC people, I felt isolated a lot. Now I'm no longer in that place, and that's a good place to be.
So in the past, when you've interacted with people that know NVC, you felt isolated, and that's shifting for you. You don't feel that way as much anymore.
Not quite, Lou.
Okay.
What I meant to say was actually that where I was didn't have that NVC mindset. So now I've come across this NVC mindset, and actually being present with someone rather than attacking them. My mental health has improved vastly. There we go.
Yeah, so you're saying that the way you were raised and the way you were kind of operating in the world was more of that, with that critical mindset, and that you felt more isolated when you were doing that. And now that you're doing more listening and understanding and connecting with people, you like that much better. And I've lost a little piece of the last thing that you said.
Mental health has improved.
Oh, and your mental health's improved, right? You think you're,
yeah. Thank you, Lou. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll go to Sunita. Yeah, so you know, what I think is a very good doorway in, whether it's to empathy circles or NVC, is to really help people think about how to listen to others and not so much focus on expression. You know, my experience is, so I'll stop there.
Okay. You mentioned about the importance of listening, helping people develop that skill of listening rather than expressing. And it doesn't really matter whether it is NVC or empathy circle.
Yes. And I think that the power of empathy circles is that we don't try to control anything about how people express themselves. And what we do is encourage people to listen to what people are saying, and trying to understand what is being said, you know, and reflecting that back to the person.
And the beauty of the empathy circle is that there is freedom for people to reflect what they have heard. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and you know, my experience of teaching communication skills, including NVC, is that when you focus a lot on trying to tell people how to express themselves, they usually get stuck, and it kind of shuts them down.
Yeah. So you're speaking about your experience of, you know, like when you talked about okay. Yeah, when people feel controlled, then they cannot express. That's what you found as well, teaching communication skills.
Yeah, and it's not so much trying to control them, but you know, if you try to give them a lot of guidance for it, then they get stuck. Usually they get stuck in the guidance, and they wind up not knowing how to express themselves.
Yes, so too much guidance doesn't help people. That's what you have experienced. Yeah, and that's what you shared.
Right, because what happens is, because people don't have the skill to express their strong emotion without judgment, then they wind up not saying what they really want to say.
Yeah. So, yeah, I missed that out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I was saying that
I'm totally off today.
that's okay. I understand, you know, it's late. You're saying it's late there. Yeah, so I was saying that because it's difficult to learn to express yourself without any judgment, if you ask people to do that, they usually will wind up actually not expressing what they really want to say because they can't figure out how to say it without judgment.
Yeah. So it's difficult for people to say what they want to say without judging.
Yeah. And one of the skills of NVC is to listen past people's judgments and the difficult way they express themselves.
Yeah. So one of the skills in NVC is to listen past judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what NVC calls focusing on the feelings and needs being expressed, you know, not the judgments. So it may come out, what the person's trying to say may come out in the most awful way. And the listener, the question the listener is asking themselves is, what feelings and what needs is the person expressing right now?
Okay. So yeah, so the focus of NVC is the needs and feelings of the person.
Yeah. And that's a way of listening past the judgments. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's listening beyond judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that requires listening beyond judgment. Yeah.
And that's not easy to do either. And we're not teaching it explicitly in the empathy circle. But by saying to people, just reflect back what you're hearing the person say, that's the beginning of teaching that skill.
So it's not easy to teach, but then in an empathy circle, just asking people to reflect what they have heard, they learn, or it happens.
It's right. It's the beginning of teaching that skill. Yes. Thanks for hearing me so well.
Okay. All right. Dean, can I ask you to be my listener, please?
Certainly, Sunita.
Yeah. So if I have to talk about what resonates with me, then it is the power of listening.
So I'm hearing you speak to the power of listening.
And I think that has been our topic, like with all of us, we've been talking about listening and listening beyond judgment, or how to listen beyond judgment.
So I hear you speak to the fact that we're actually trying to listen beyond judgment.
Yeah. So nonviolent communication, empathy circle. And it's interesting how such an important skill is something that we lack.
So I'm hearing you say that for this really powerful skill, it's interesting how we seem to lack it.
Yeah. And this effort of bringing this skill back, or making people aware, or naturally find a way to come back and be present and be aware. This is something that I really honor and respect. As I mentioned, I think last week too, I'll stop there.
So I'm hearing you speak to your joy and honor at actually discovering and being able to do this process.
Yeah, because today, more than ever before, there are so many ways for people to be distracted. And that is sad. I mean, in a family, there are people like, okay, 3 or 4 or 5, but they live in isolation. That's what our story is now. And for people like Lou and yourself and Edwin to come up with this idea and to teach us and to help us share this, what more? I mean, what more can I say? Yeah.
So I'm hearing you speak of the sorrow of seeing the family unit broke down into isolation. So people sit there but aren't present with each other. And then I'm hearing you speak to the joy of this new way of actually learning through the circling process to listen and be present with someone.
Yeah. And it's not just about listening, but listening with care, listening with compassion and empathy, and listening just so that the other person feels heard and that other person has that safe environment to speak, and how important that is. Yeah.
So I'm hearing you speak to the power of someone actually feeling properly heard and the way that can impact upon them.
Yeah. And yes, and I just feel, I mean, I would like to take this in, like really internalize it, so that it becomes my strength. And in turn, be that presence, provide that safe space in whatever way possible. Yeah.
So I'm hearing you talk to the power of internalizing the capacity to be that safe space to allow others to express and be heard.
Thank you very much, Dean. I feel to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita. We have about 5 minutes left. Do we want to do a little closing of this circle, or do we want to carry on for another round?
I think it would be nice to do a closing.
I think so too. I would like to just in 2 minutes say I can't own any ownership of this skill set apart from the fact that I am learning it just as you are. I am very young in this process. Lou and Bill and Edwin, they have been doing this for a long time and they're very skilled. I'm still learning, and it's an honor and a privilege to learn and to be present with such lovely people. Thank you. I'll pass on to Celine.
Well, it's been very interesting for me. A couple of things. One, of course, is that talking about NBC, and I'd love to get in there and really work with that because it's interesting to me. I'm also, and I told you, Sunita, I'm so grateful and admiring that you come at 11 o'clock at night. It's like, wow. Thank you. And so I'm very much in my heart today, and I'm feeling a lot of gratitude and appreciation. Thank you for this circle. Incomplete. And I'll turn it over to Graham.
Thank you, Celine. There are a lot of little themes here which I really valued. And that is that listening is such a valuable skill. And like Sunita said, you can be in a family and none of them speak to each other. They're all isolated. And being able to learn to listen is big. To be able to learn to listen with care is another big step. And so it goes on. And I come from the same world as you, Dean, that you've described. And a few years back, I had no idea about listening, none whatsoever. And so I've connected with a lot that has been said here today. And if I may, can I add and further thanks to Sunita, because I'm guessing that English is not Sunita's mother language, and that will make things immensely difficult, particularly when you are being challenged with new domains that are even foreign to us. Empathy is another language, Sunita. So you've got 3 languages under your belt. Anyway, thank you. So it's all good.
Yeah,
I'd like to go to Lou, please.
yeah, sure. So I'm feeling a lot of gratitude too for all of you, and I continue to learn too. This learning about myself, and learning about relationship and human interaction is a lifelong process. And I have been fortunate to have many good teachers in my life. And to grow up in a family where listening was valued. So not to say that I had a perfect upbringing. Everybody gets traumatized and hurt and disappointed and not seen in certain ways. So I certainly have those things too. Yeah, but just the other day, I made a big mistake. I was doing an empathy circle with a group of new people, and I intervened too quickly, and somebody heard it as criticism, took it as criticism, and so I wound up apologizing, and explaining why I intervened and that I'd made a mistake, and I fixed it, or mostly fixed it. But yeah, I mean, I make mistakes too, and it's all judgment and experience, and being willing actually to admit when you don't know, or you got it wrong, or it's a big experiment. I have a conversation coming up this afternoon that is new with new people, and I'm nervous. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna. I'm not doing an empathy circle with them. I didn't ask them to do an empathy circle, but it's with a group of people who I want them to start listening to each other and be willing to reflect each other. And I don't know how I'm going to introduce them to that idea, or if I'll get them to agree to it or not. But I'm going to start by listening to them. I know that's a good place to start.
Sunita.
So, yeah, my deepest gratitude to all of you, because there's so much that happened in this 1 hour and 15 minutes. So much learning, so much insight. And I mean, in the process of our sharing, there's those bits of wisdom. Everyone had something valuable. And yeah, the richness. And so that's why I feel having a circle like this is so important. And the connection, it's so safe and so sacred and so meaningful and so deepening and so enriching. So, and I think that having something like this gives us the understanding that, yes, we are that goodness, and we have the power to care and share and connect. And this is how we do it. This is how simple it is to do it. And so thank you for giving me this experience. Thank you. Yeah, it's immense. It's deep. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
We're just
Anita.
about to leave the breakout room. Thank you. We'll see you in the main room.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
We'll talk about it later.